experienced in certain ways. They try and get acclimated to the system. But all those guys are good dudes. They love ball. They play with a competitive edge, and now just creating that brotherhood. I think it's my job as a coach to teach those guys exactly what to do. And the critical thing about spring ball is you get a chance to see how those guys learn. Everybody learns different. Some are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are kinesthetic learners. But for us to get a chance this spring, that's why it's so critical we got those guys here. And now it's me as a coach to figure out how those guys learn and develop those guys and hopefully can master their craft.
Coach, a lot of times the way it is now with bringing guys in and you've got newcomers and all that, a lot of times you forget about the returning guys, but your returning guys may be the biggest recruit you had because he came back. How important, I guess, take us through that process of when you found out that Quincy was coming back and what he's done since then?
Great question. I think when you start talking about Quincy Riley, before you start talking about the football player, you start talking about the man. I think his mom, Miss Kelly, and his family did an unbelievable job of raising Quincy. Quincy graduated this past fall with his degree, but he wanted to come back and get his master's from the University of Louisville. I think that speaks volumes for a young man. He really embodies what a student athlete should be. When you talk about the football side of it, I think Quincy took a global approach. When you get a chance to step back and he watched the film from last year, there were things he felt like he wanted to get better at. And after the season, he had some pros and some cons. He met with me and Coach English and Coach Brum and discussed those issues and got a chance to have a direct plan that we gave him to come back. I think when you look at Quincy now, it's a totally different person. Sometimes I don't really know who he is right now. And that's the way it should be. He's professional. He about his business. He weighed last year 182 pounds. I think our dietitian, nutritionist, Miss Hannah, done an unbelievable job with Quincy. He's 195 pounds now. Just the leadership that he's showing throughout this spring ball is really tremendous. Again, good player, but better person.
Steve, how has Quincy, in the time you've had spring ball, about 2.5 weeks or so, how has he kind of been different as a player versus what you saw last season?
Well, first of all, I think it goes to this. Let's have a transparent conversation. Let's do that first. Let's look at the film. Let's see what can we get better at. And I think he has done that. And I think the first thing he wanted to do was change his body. And I think he has done that also. The next thing he wanted to do is just improve the football IQ to really go from a higher level of learning. He done made a couple plays this spring that a freshman or sophomore probably wouldn't have made. But his IQ of football right now is through the roof. He's studying tape, he's watching film. He texts me all hours of the night just watching film on his iPad, things I can get better at. The next thing it is you can't be a self-confident. As my job as a coach to make it uncomfortable. I got to point out every issue, even to the minute degree of this way it can be better. And I think he is taking that approach this spring is, I want to be the best. Most importantly, how can I create that brotherhood with this group to bring everybody along? It's a thing we have in our room is this. Your attitude is contagious. Or you're going to bring guys with you. And I think that's one of the things he's really stood out to me is his attitude be contagious. Guys are following him, not only just in our DB room, but amongst the whole team also.
You had a pretty highly rated freshman last year. You had to sit out, and Aaron Williams, both Jeff and Ron have spoken highly of him this spring. What's been your impression of how he's come out in really his true first spring?
I think when, me being a football coach, I had a knee injury myself in college. And if you guys or you ladies have had injuries, that's probably one of the most darkest moments you can ever have. Because the other team is practicing, they're playing, you kind of sitting back in the corner doing 5 a.m. rehab by yourself, and you just with the trainers. And I just talked to Coach Love during the fall last year that he was just saying Aaron had a great attitude. Even when you saw him in the fall when he was rehabbing, you never saw him with a frown on his face or a sad face. He had that blossom smile that you knew this guy was going to be a good player. And now he's healthy. The first thing that sticks out to me is competitive nature. He's a competitor. He plays with an edge. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. That's what you saw on high school tape, and he's getting back to that. Been very pleased with him. Again, he got a long way to go, but through 7 practices, be 8 tomorrow. Very encouraged with Aaron Williams.
Coach English said last time we got to talk to him that D-back room that you guys have right now is one of the strongest he's seen since he's been a coach. I guess what kind of stands out to you about the room as a whole and how they've kind
Well, the first thing when you want to be a good unit is you got to punch the clock. When those guys come back here, they punch the clock and they're ready to work. And the first thing you got to do is put the work in. They have definitely done that. They studying film. They watching other teams. They're watching other players. They always hitting you up, through text message on different things that they see with technology on the internet or YouTube, trying to find ways to get better. The biggest thing now is just creating that brotherhood, that togetherness. And I think that what those guys are doing, even not with the staff, but when you see one, you see 3 or 4 of them always around each other. I just walked back through this interview of 4 or 5 guys in the meeting room on their off time today, just watching film. And I think they continue to do that. I think the sky's the limit for this group.
Going back to Aaron, is that someone you can see filling in that role for Jarvis, or who's kind of some guys that stand up to as far as kind of being that potentially replacing Jarvis?
I think Jarvis is a big role to fill. And I think Aaron, the rest of those guys in that room up from the starting standard. I think the biggest thing that Jarvis brought in was that toughness. Like, he was a tough guy, loved to compete, loved to get after, and he had a great work ethic. I mean, you turn some of his tape on from the game, it's good, but his practice tape even better. And I think that's one of those guys took from Jarvis, that's having just a great attitude about practice and always have an opportunity to get better. But we got some guys in that room that I think are up for the challenge. We may not be able to do it individually, but I think we can do it collectively.
When you look at a guy like Corey, what has he brought to the table and to this room? And he's got experience, and that's what you've got with some of those newcomers. But he kind of stood out last week when we saw open practice a little bit.
I think when you look at Corey, you look at a guy that's big, long, fast, has played a lot of football, has a great understanding of football. His high school coach, one of the best in the country. He played a good competitive environment. So he came to this stage here, it was just another stepping stone from Corey. He's articulate, he understands football, he has a high level IQ, and the most important thing about Corey, he's a football lover. Like, he loves to play football, and that's one of the requirements to be a good football player. You gotta love football, and he definitely does that.
Earlier in spring, Ron mentioned that, like, in terms of the secondary as a whole, it's arguably probably the best back end of unit he's ever seen. How does this secondary, from what you've seen so far with the collection of talent we've seen in spring, how do you think this unit kind of rack ups amongst the various secondaries you've seen over your career?
I think the first thing is they're athletic. They got a unique appetite of wanting to get better. They all really transparent with each other, and they all compete against each other. They always trying to win. If you watch tape and you see some of the plays we made at practice, Taz made a play the other day at practice, and on the film, the first guy jumping off the sideline was Quincy Riley. T-Mac made an unbelievable play yesterday, a pick that Tate batted up, and he got an offer of deflection, and the first guy came off the sideline was MJ Griffin, and MJ ain't even practicing. So I think the biggest thing, you want to develop that brotherhood, that love for each other. I know sometimes as men we say, we don't say love too often, but you got to have that love in the group. They got to have love for the players, and the players have to have love for the coaches, because you never can push those guys to the point that you want to push them if there is no love there. And I think that's the first thing that I think we want to establish with this group. No, we go compete, we go love each other, we go be transparent with each other, because again, that's a standard and an expectation that Coach Brown has set that we want to meet. And I think that's the first thing we want to try to do.
You played, Quincy and Jarvis played a lot of snaps last year. You've got seemingly more depth. I know it's only spring, but do you like when you can rotate guys in and out? I mean, obviously, if you've got 2 to roll with and they played really well, but is it not better when you've got other guys to give them a little break here or there?
It's always better, because always, strength in numbers. And that's what we try to tell the guys, man, there's strength in numbers. The more guys we got to play, the more guys is going to play. And we can end up developing more packages. Guys be fresher in the fourth quarter, especially when it's tight in the game. Guys are not tired. And again, it's more fun. When you got a lot of guys playing and they making plays, again, it breeds that continuity, and it breeds that brotherhood with each other, that everybody can make a play. And we kind of got this philosophy on defense is, hey man, it's enough food to eat. It's enough food to go around for everybody. And hopefully those guys believe in that, and we get a lot of guys to play.
Good.
Yep. Good. Thank you guys.